Welcome back, and in this episode we're going to be going over the book written by McCaffrey and Todd McCaffrey, Dragon's Time. I think the easiest thing to note about this book is the word in the title, time. That it's really about time travel, going forward, backwards, timing it. Can you break time? Can you cheat time? Um, it's it's a book where you really have to be paying attention to what is going on, or because there are times when they're going to time it to different areas in the same chapter. Because the chapters are long. The book's 321 pages, and there's 11 chapters and an epilogue. So there are times when they will be going and jumping between times in the same chapter. And if you're not really paying attention, it's going to be hard to figure out and to see to try to figure out, okay, where are they and what are they doing now. All the main characters are here. Fiona is here. Kindon is here. Lorena finally comes in. Tamar. And then there's the lesser characters that all kind of come in, and basically for the most part, really, the book continues the same question that happens in the other ones. How do we fight Thread when we lack dragons? They keep losing dragons each, or to whether they lose them or they get injured dragons, injured riders, or they lose them between. They're losing them every fall. So it's like, okay, well, we can only fight so much before we run out of dragons, and we only have so many queens. So what do we do? The thinking here, and it's an interesting notion. Just like in one of the earlier books, they went back in time to heal riders and dragons that were hurt. They also took what they called the Weirlings, which were the newly hatched dragons and their riders, to get them older. Well, what they did here is, instead of going back, because they can't go back. They already used all of the time that they had at Eigen Weir, so they can't do that. They find a location and they move forward. I believe it's 10 years, 10 turns, they would say. And they have, and it's not really that they were expecting this, but they wanted to heal their injured dragons, and again have their Weirlings kind of grow. But then they have the green dragons. They haven't had the Firestone, so they're not sterile yet. They have mating flights. The queens have mating flights, and you have all these eggs, and they're in this island, this really like lush kind of terrain, and they're these things that come back from Fiona's childhood that come back to kind of kick them in the end. The tunnel snakes. They kind of feast on some of the eggs, so they don't get as many eggs out as they want. Another theme that keeps coming up is, as Lorena is going through time, she keeps hearing the voices. A man's voice saying, "The Weirs must be warned. The Weirs must be warned." And then she hears a woman's voice saying, "We cannot lose the babies. We cannot lose the babies." And we find out at the end, really, who these voices are, and what Lorena figures out that she needs to do to, I guess, I don't want to say that she breaks time, but it almost feels like she does. And I'm not going to give it away as to whose voices she's hearing. I mean, if you've read the earlier books, because this is Pern 22 in terms of publication. Again, I'm going in order, chronological order. So I'm basically on book 10. It's book 11 because I did Rescue Run on its own. But if you've read the earlier books, then you know Dagon's whole Telgar flight just went between. They were lost between. His dragon was sick, gave wrong coordinates, and they were gone. And the message that went out right then and there was the Weirs must be warned. The Weirs must be warned. So we know whose voice that is. When it comes to we cannot lose the babies, we cannot lose the babies, you get an idea of whose it is, but you don't know why. And the why comes obviously within the book, the how of it. It was creative, confusing, but creative. I think the way that time is used here to try to save Pern. I mean, obviously we know that the dragons survive because there's there's a series in the 6th pass and a whole bunch of books in the 9th pass. You can't get that far if the dragons die in the 3rd pass. If they all die in the 3rd pass and Pern gets scored by thread, then you got no planet, you got no people, you got no dragons, and the series. With this book and the ending, I think the epilogue, is kind of confusing at first, but the creativity of it really comes nicely. And I think I want to say I think it was Anne's doing the epilogue. I think the majority, I mean, considering these characters, Todd's been working with them for 3 books on his own. I think he had quite a bit of idea. I think a lot of it was sort of his input, not as dark, at least. So I think that's Anne's, presence within the book. But the writing style, it goes back to what was written between the two of them, and I think that she was in control of that. Now, the editing process in the author's notes or in the acknowledgments, Todd says, the editing process was left to me. Any mistakes in there are mine. They rest on my shoulders. But I think Anne really kind of was more in control of this one. That's just my thinking, my guess. But it's a good book. It really is. It's just you have to pay attention. And I was debating with myself as I'm reading this, going, do I give it 4 stars? Do I give it 5? I don't really know yet. And I think the epilogue, the way that the epilogue ended, because there's a recurring theme that comes up with Taryn and Fijan, and I'm not going to mention what that is because it gives it away. But the epilogue concerns the two of them, and I think the way that they wrap up that conclusion, that concurring theme, was really spot on. I give them a ton of credit, and that to me saved the 5 stars. Otherwise, I don't know if this book would have got it. I probably would have been between 4 and 5, but the epilogue, like I said, the epilogue saved it, and now there's one book left in the 3rd pass. When you read the book or you read the author's notes and the acknowledgments, they called it Dragon Rider, and that's not what the name of the next book is. I already know because I looked on my list. It's Sky Dragons. So maybe it's just Dragon Rider, just under another name. Maybe they changed names. Maybe there was a book called that already. I don't know. But I thought this was a good return. considering the last book was just so dark, you know, a lot of death, a lot of depression, a lot of darkness in that book. That we kind of return to where there's hope. And where there's hope, there are going to be people that are going to find ways to fight, that are going to find the ways to make the future happen. And you know, it's rare that I come across a book that actually like makes me look at the real world and say, you know what, that kind of makes sense. If you know, if there, as long as there's hope, there's people that are going to find ways to carry on. And this book kind of gave that to me. So yeah, I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. I like it. A little confusing at times, but if you can, like I said, you can stay in tune with it, then you'll be good with it. So as always, you know, please like, subscribe, turn on the notification button. You'll be doing me a big favor. Also, drop a comment below whether you like this book or the series. If you have any memories or thoughts on it, just no spoilers. Also, if you have any suggestions for books for me to read, series, drop those in the comments down below too. Or if you want to connect on Goodreads, drop your Goodreads name, and we'll connect and see what each other is reading. So until then, as always, keep YouTube literate, and God bless.